When we talk about effective leadership and what makes someone a great leader, it's such a complex subject, which does make it an interesting area of study, but also it's easy to get overwhelmed by the thousands of books and self-described experts on the topic of leadership. And yet, for all that information, for all that thinking and training and coaching related to leadership development, many organizations and individuals still struggle with the simple question, what does great leadership look like? Is it visionary leadership, or situational leadership, or servant leadership, or emotionally intelligent leadership, or quantum, or strategic, or primal leadership? Is great leadership a result of innate psychological behavioral traits, or a set of learnable skills and competencies? With so many really smart people focused on it, you'd think that we would have long ago cracked the code of great leadership. But most organizations still struggle with it, and I think we can all acknowledge that when we ourselves encounter leaders in business, in government, in the military, and everywhere else, many of them are less than optimal as leaders. But not all. I frequently have the opportunity to meet exceptional leaders, and they come in such an amazing variety, all ages, cultures, backgrounds, even a variety of personalities and behavioral styles. Some are 7 habits leaders. Some are profits first leaders, or good to great leaders, or execution or traction leaders. And many are just their own unique combination of skills, behaviors, backgrounds, values. So it can be hard to discern what all these great leaders have in common, because they are so diverse and unique. But if you pay very close attention, there is one thing, one trait, one focus they all share. And to explain that one thing, we have to go back about 50,000 years to when our species first came into existence. We were not the strongest, or the fastest, or the most resilient, not even the smartest. In fact, we were quite vulnerable as a species. But certain evolutionary traits allowed our human species to thrive, even as other hominoid species around us perished. We lived in populations that were never bigger than 150 people, small, stable groups with very high social cohesion, strong relationships and interdependency. And for 40,000 of the 50,000 years our species has existed, this is how we lived. This is how our brains evolved to thrive through cooperation in a small, trusted group. And this is how we're wired still today. It's only in the past 10,000 years with farming that we were able to live in populations larger than 150. And only with industrialization in the past 200 years that we've lived and worked in even larger populations. Which means, from an evolutionary perspective, that our brains are still wired for living in small, stable groups with a very high social cohesion within the group. But our living and working environment has become vastly more complex. We essentially work with strangers. We don't choose our colleagues, we choose a job and then set about figuring out how to work well with our new tribe, hoping that we won't get ejected from the tribe during the next round of layoffs. Our brains are not made for a business environment where we might feel the need to watch our back, because not everyone can be trusted to look out for us. Not everyone can be depended on to carry their fair share of the workload, where the rewards are not necessarily distributed evenly or based upon contribution to the group. I'm not passing judgment on the modern work environment. I'm just observing that we are not naturally wired to work productively in an environment where we might have a leader and coworkers we don't know or trust. We might have a job we don't particularly like, or that doesn't seem too important to the rest of the tribe, where we have little influence or control over our environment, where we really don't feel deeply connected to the people we work with. In so many ways, from an evolutionary standpoint, we're not made for this. As far as our brain is concerned, all the rules of being human are exactly the same as they used to be when we were living in populations of about 150. And our brains yearn for that connection, that reassurance that comes with it. So if you can understand that, as a leader, you can understand what works and what doesn't work in terms of leading a group, regardless of the conditions. You can understand how to lead a group in a way that aligns with our evolutionary development. And every great leader understands, sometimes consciously, but often just instinctively. Great leaders understand we are social animals and we respond to the environments we're in. Always. Our brain is wired to think that our very survival depends on our ability to cooperate and trust the people that we live with and work with. Average leaders think they are only responsible for outcomes, KPIs, OKRs, results. But great leaders, like the ones I mentioned before, they understand that they are not responsible for results. They are responsible for the people who are responsible for the results. And if you take care of that, take care of the people, take care of the environment within which those people work together, most often things will work out just fine. Some leaders are obsessed with the idea of getting the right people on the bus. And of course, it's important to ensure that you have the right people with the right capabilities for each role. But we should also be asking, who's driving the bus? How well is the bus running? When was the last time the bus had a maintenance check? The bus itself matters. The environment matters. Great leadership is a responsibility. It's a social responsibility. Whatever your current level or rank or authority may be, when you make a choice to enhance the working environment, when you make a choice to help a colleague, when you make a choice to respect the human needs of others, when you do anything to enhance the working environment for others, you are a leader. Because that's what great leadership is. It's taking on responsibility to take care of the people around you, the people with whom you work. And if you accept that the one thing for a great leader is to create an environment that respects, engages, and connects with every employee, the good news is that we know exactly what it takes, and we know exactly the results it produces. Improved efficiency, productivity, profitability, shareholder value, reduced turnover, absenteeism, even fewer accidents, mistakes, and employee thefts. We know what it takes because employees have been telling us. For more than 20 years, numerous consulting and research organizations have been studying this, and there have been a variety of national surveys of employee engagement. The bad news is that a high percentage of employees are not particularly engaged at work. And in fact, overall engagement has been declining. But again, the good news is that they've told us exactly what it would take to get them fully engaged. So the one thing, optimizing the work environment, unlocking employee engagement, is a result of addressing 10 specific factors in the work environment. And what is most fascinating is that these 10 factors align fully with how our evolutionary brains are wired. I'll share those 10 engagement drivers with you in detail in the next video titled Unlocking Employee Engagement. Thanks for listening.